Ewelina Bednarz, Evertiq Expo Warsaw 2024. I'm with great analytic Dieter G. Weiss from in4ma. Dieter, tell us something about this year.
Well, 2024 is a very difficult year. We see about 70 to 75% of all EMS companies suffering, which means they so far have done less revenues than in 2023, and they will definitely all have less revenues for the full year. There's only a small part of companies which are working in specialty fields which will have an increase. Yeah? So for me, if I'm asked about how in general it develops, I can only give you an average number. And then you have companies who say, no, we are developing worse, and they know that. But there are others who are developing better. And so on average, that is the present situation. And it's not very good in specific, because we expect that 40, maybe even 50% of all EMS companies in Europe will this year make losses. And that is still a result of this famous fake chip crisis.
And what's your prediction for the future? Because everybody wants to know what will be in the future with market, etc.
Again, I can only give you an average figure, which is gonna be questioned by several companies. I predict that in the first quarter of next year, the business is gonna pick up. But if you look at the different market segments, aerospace and defense had never seen a slowdown. So companies who are focusing on these markets have seen much better results even in 24. Yeah? If you want some examples, for example, company Sycor of Switzerland, they have a brilliant strategy of having acquired a lot of EMS companies in the UK who are specifically working for the aerospace and defense industry. And that industry is blooming. So their results in comparison to the other public EMS companies are much better, which is not unpredictable. It was predictable. And if you have read already today the third quarter announcements of a company Kitron in Norway, they as well say airspace and defense, good market. But we have other markets who are suffering. And that includes as well industrial. It includes the 3C, which is a lower share in Europe, but still we have communication, we have computer, we have consumer products being manufactured over here. And they are still slow. Industrial electronic, medical electronic, that is all an issue. And by far even worse is the automotive industry, because the market doesn't know where we are heading. Are we heading fully into electrical vehicles, or are we still talking about burners? And in Germany, there had been subsidies earlier this year, and from one day to the other, they were cut. And with the cut, immediately the sales of electrical vehicle went down. So all of that is impacting. And there is nothing more dangerous than if there is no visibility about the future of a market. So when I now say the first quarter of 2025, it picks up again, some companies say, well, we never had a decline. Others will say, no way, it will last until the second quarter, or only the second half of 25 we're going to see an improvement. And they're all right. But if you take them all together, on average, in the first quarter next year, we're going to see a pickup. And that is a message I'm going to bring specifically to the suppliers who are working with different, not just with one company. For the EMS industry, it's tough, but it's even worse for the printed circuit board industry. We have just seen the closure of the Wirth factory in Schopfheim, Germany, which cut 300 jobs in Germany. Only 4 weeks later, now S2P Electronic SRL in Italy went into liquidation. And it looks as if we're going to see a further decline of PCB companies over here in Europe every month. And that is more dangerous because at the moment the EMS companies are just looking at the cheapest way to buy PCBs. You can do that. But sooner or later, there will be no supply of PCBs from Europe anymore. And then I would not want to expect what the Chinese prices are gonna do then.
Okay, that was tough. Okay, so now the last question, Dieter. How do you find the difference between Eastern and Western European EMS? Tell us something about that.
Yeah, well, number one, Western Europe, to me, has, and I am sorry to say that, I still make the separation along the former Iron Curtain, and that is not a political statement. It's simply due to the fact that we see huge labor cost differences between the Central Eastern European countries and the Western countries. And I'm going to show that today in my presentation as well. And the Western EMS market is very homogeneous. It has developed over a period of more than 50 years. Just imagine, I think Zollner, the biggest one, will celebrate his 60th birthday next year. So that is very homogeneous. Now, look in comparison to Central Eastern Europe. Yes, in the communist time, there were companies doing electronics as well, but most of them did not survive when the curtain fell. And then some were privatized, but there was few companies. And then all of a sudden, a lot of big companies like Foxconn, Flex, Jabil, Kimball, Lexus, Benchmark, Celestica, they all came to Eastern Europe because they felt that they could serve the overall European market by manufacturing in Central Eastern Europe with low labor costs and putting a sticker on the final product made in Europe. So you now have a totally different, heterogeneous market in Eastern Europe than you have in Western Europe. You have a lot of very, very big companies, yeah. If you just look at, for example, Flex and Jabil, they in their factories they make more than 1.8 billion. Yeah, Foxconn has 6 factories over here. In those factories, they make more than 7 billion in revenues annually. So that's different. But if you look at the number of Eastern European-owned companies, and we're going to see that in my presentation. I'm going to show the 30 biggest Eastern-owned EMS companies in Europe. There's a lot of small companies in there in comparison to those big ones. Yeah? And that is the main difference. Yeah? But that doesn't mean that there is no future for those companies. No. I'm going to show you a comparison of similar sized companies in Western Europe to Eastern Europe. And the profitability of those EMS companies in the range, let's say 10 to 30 million in Eastern Europe is much better than in Western Europe. So I think there is a very good future for the EMS manufacturers in Central Eastern Europe.
That's good. And I think with this positive accent, I can thank you for the great interview, Dieter. Thank you.
Thank you.